Mickey Hart here, you're listening to the GAA Hour Football Show.
The GAA Hour with Colm Parkinson is brought to you by Paddy Power, home of the Money Back Special.
I'm not finished yet, it took me a long time to get here.
Both players have spoken with each other, and they regret what happened. They've had a frank discussion with each other, and they're both of them are keen to now focus on getting back their county jerseys.
That these fellas will get such a shell shock next Saturday evening that we'll put them back in their asses for 10 years.
Welcome along to the GAA Hour on a Thursday. Myself and Conor are here. Conor is away up in Derry somewhere. There's only one place to start. Oh, hello to our YouTube users. I'm going to get used to saying that now, Conor. So hello to our YouTube users.
How's it going?
So we're going to start giving YouTube a little bit more of a push. There's one or two people actually looking at it on YouTube.
Right now.
Yeah. Thank you for looking at it. One place to start. We talked about violence in the GAA and the Down county or league match and those horrible scenes that we saw there. And we're going to start on a similar vein here because there's a video has emerged of the Laois hurling county final where Ross King, Laois captain, got really, really bad injuries. Got his lip completely split. There's talk he got teeth knocked out now. I'm not sure if they were knocked out. They were definitely bent back and loosened, and he just got braces off recently. So, it's a complete disaster. And to be honest, the video doesn't paint Camrus in a very good light. There's a few really, really wild pulls that would warrant red cards on their own. And then as Ross King comes over in response to the wild pulls, not really a third man in because there wasn't a melee or anything. It looked like where you see in hurling all the time, you come in and give a shoulder kind of to back up your teammate. And he was met with the butt of a hurl straight into his face. Now, if you're holding the hurl up at the end of the hurl like all hurlers I know do, that hurl won't go into the face guard. You have to leave a few inches on it for it to go in through. Yeah. So for me, it was a disgusting challenge. The referee only gave yellow cards to the wild pulling and to this challenge. The Rathdowney Earl management went after the linesman and the referee at half time, and there was a bit of an altercation in the tunnel, and the linesman told him that he advised the referee to give a straight red because they had told the linesman, you had the best view of that. He told the referee to give a straight red. The referee gave a yellow. So you can make of that whatever you want. So the Laois County Board have a really big decisions to make here because we've seen pictures doing the rounds on social media, which as far as I'm concerned would make me sick to my stomach, that players would revel in the fact of the Laois hurling captain Ross King, that the injuries that he got. How could you revel in that? How could you make fun of that? Ross King is well known, sound fella. We've had him on the show here, and he's Laois hurling captain, and to kind of enjoy the fact that he, at the time, they thought that his teeth were knocked out, and for pictures to be doing the rounds of a Laois teammate of his stripping back his teeth, making a jeer of it. I can't comprehend the mentality of it, and as far as I'm concerned, it's brought Laois hurling into disrepute, and the Laois County Board need to take a serious, just because the referee gave a yellow card, that is not good enough punishment as far as I'm concerned.
I would imagine that whoever was responsible for the pictures might try and say that, we only meant to send it, amongst ourselves.
That's irrelevant.
Completely irrelevant. But even if that wasn't the case, how would you deem this worthy of laughter or derision, or send it around thinking, it'll get a great reaction now if I send around this picture of us with smiling with our teeth out when a guy just had his teeth knocked out?
I can only speak from my point of view of playing with Portlaoise and Laois and any team I've been on, and if something like that happened, it never did happen, I can imagine us going in the pub, Jesus, we didn't expect that to happen. I hope nothing comes of this. You'd be worried about the reaction. You wouldn't be posing for pictures, jeering what's after happening. And that's just an insight into the mentality of that club. And that's all I'll say.
Well, I know there was some obviously there was a lot of comments kind of left after, and there was some people saying that it was a kind of a protective act, as you were kind of saying there.
For me, it wasn't.
Of course, but that's what was being claimed. But even if it was an act of protection, and even if it was accidental, in that case, you'd at least have some sympathy. If you did it deliberately, it goes far beyond sympathy. If you do something like that deliberately, and you see what's happened to Ross King, you have shame, you have complete remorse.
Yeah.
Never mind being involved in pictures and sending it to somebody, openly laughing at this guy. You imagine how Ross King feels about it.
It went up in one Snapchat calling him the Tooth Fairy. Now, it wasn't the fella who did its Snapchat, it was someone else, but at the same time, it's rotten. It's absolutely rotten. So the Laois County Board, the word I have is that they're going to meet tonight and look at the video, and Like, I mean, I think there's a huge spotlight on the Laois County Board to set a good example, because I'm going to move on to another example, and this was in the Limerick Leader today. And like, I mean, I'm trying to talk about this as being a nationwide problem and a culture of trying to get off with incidents where you don't deserve. We remember John Balan famously saying, taking his punishment, I don't deserve to get off it, and took his punishment. That culture doesn't exist anymore. Now it's let's get off on technicalities, let's get off whatever we can. So there's a letter that Ballysteen GAA club sent into the Limerick Leader. So one of their players received a really serious injury in the Limerick football quarter-final between Ballysteen and Ballylanders. So this is what the letter says. Now this is from the Ballysteen chairman, Alan Keogh. So I'm writing to express our disappointment following an incident that took place during the senior football match between Ballysteen and Ballylanders. The match took place on Saturday, September 29th, when Ballysteen and Ballylanders played the quarter-final Limerick Senior Football Championship. During the game, one of our players received an unprovoked elbow to the face at one point in the game, in which he did not have possession of the ball. He had to immediately leave the field and could not continue. The Ballylander player who inflicted the injury received a red card and was sent off immediately. So at least that's something more than poor Ross King incident. The extent of the Ballysteen player's injuries were discovered upon medical examination and included the following: cheekbone fracture, lower eye socket fracture, and bone behind the eyebrow fracture. The player was sent to University Hospital later that evening for x-ray, and the above facial injuries were discovered. Due to severe bruising and swelling, an operation was deferred until October the 4th. In addition to the facial reconstruction, a plate was inserted which will remain for life, and he suffered a numbness on the side of his face and jaw, and surgeons have advised that he may not recover due to the nerve damage sustained in the blow. The player who inflicted this injury received a straight red card, and automatically a one-match ban must be served. However, in this instance, the red card was overturned on appeal. Right? This will just make you sick, right? So the letter went on to say the perpetrator moved 20 or 30 yards and inflicted a single blow to the face, captured on match video, and this is the county board chairman says he's asking the county board to investigate how such an appeal was successful. The Ballysteen club want to make it clear we harbour no animosity, so Ballylanders. Now, the successful appeal against the unprovoked assault to our player raises questions on the integrity of Limerick GAA's disciplinary system and sets an example for both adult and junior players around the county that this is completely unacceptable. That's beyond belief again. I mean, this is a culture. I keep saying it. This is county boards. The politics, the incompetence, all these things. And I scratch your back, you scratch mine, I'll get your lad off, you vote for me the next time. All this thing is happening. So how someone who caused that kind of damage with video evidence got his appeal successful, it's just beyond belief. Why would you even want to appeal a decision after causing that kind of damage? But this is this culture of getting off, right? Because earlier on this year, there was a huge fight, remember, in the under-20 between Armagh and Tyrone. Right, so 10 Armagh players were hit with suspensions, right? Because they moved on. It was highlighted more with Armagh because Tyrone were knocked out and Armagh were going to play Derry in the final. So 10 of them received proposed suspensions. So we all saw it happened on the field. Fellas left the bench, the whole lot, right? So instead of going, again, I'm talking about the culture. Instead of kind of going, right, well, in fairness, lots of lads got involved and it was ugly scenes, we're going to have to take our suspension like a man, and hopefully the lads will learn a good lesson moving up to senior level that this kind of thing isn't tolerated. Instead of that, their manager Peter MacDonald says this goes back to the under-20s being used as guinea pigs. What would this happen at senior intercounty level? They would hone in on a couple of people and make examples on them. So his idea was to come out fighting, say that they're being used as guinea pigs, say that it wouldn't happen at senior level, so they ended up appealing it. They all got off bar 2. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
so
crazy,
now, so this is the appeals process. So they went to the Ulster Hearings Committee and to decide on the proposed suspensions, and they ended up getting off. And if they hadn't got off that time, they were willing to go to the DRA, the Disputes Resolution Authority again. And I think
But that's the path. That's the well-trodden path of everything.
They all do it.
Anything.
And we've seen high-profile red cards at senior intercounty that are deserved red cards get off.
Oh, any amount of them.
Getting solicitors that have no knowledge of GAA, and they're getting off on technicalities.
Yeah.
That's what those Armagh players got off on technicalities.
That's the initial reaction. What technicality can we get off?
So how is this culture going to change? Because I actually think that these new DRAs and these new methods for getting off these things and technicalities is almost giving players free rein. We're getting off. Sure, look at the Armagh lads. 8 of them got off.
Yeah.
1 in, all in, lads. 1 in, all in. We'll get you off. I'm telling you, this is all contributing to this. County boards that, number one, I think have a huge issue with county boards all over the country. Some might be okay. I think the structure of them's all wrong. They're amateur era, and the GAA has moved on from there. And the GAA need to seriously look at putting somebody into every county board that is not ingrained and is not voted to the top and is not part of that kind of structure that's there already. Because, like, I mean, it's just it's not helping anyone.
Well, that's it for a start. The problem is the exact culture that we've talked about. Every single incident that we've mentioned there, and going back to, I remember Lee Keegan getting off in the technicality before he kicked out at Donegal Welsh in an Ireland semi-final. Kevin Keane, Jeremy Connolly, these are all in recent years in games involving Mayo.
Yeah.
And always it was, and like fans come to accept this as well. It's like, you see, and I know these are way down there, nothing in compared to what the guy did in Limerick, but fans look to it as well. It's like, oh, Lee Keegan was red carded there. Oh, but wait, we'll probably go to the CCC and probably go to the DRA, and you know what, he'll probably be okay to play next Saturday.
Sure, wasn't it Owen Mulligan telling us? And it's almost funny looking back at it now, that the Battle of Omagh, that huge fight that spilled over there and was dangerous up in Omagh, they all got off as well.
Yeah, I know. And probably had an idea afterwards that, like, despite the fact there was a massive rout that rightly attracted national attention for all the wrong reasons, that we're probably going to get off anyway. I mean, like, so how will this end? How will this stop? Because, like, I mean, the question is here: is this a new phenomenon with gym culture and all this, or has this always gone on? Only there was no mobile phones to record them, and I think the truth lies somewhere in between those two things. It's somewhere in between. But like what people never do in the GAA is look themselves in the mirror first. So if you're like Peter McDonald, just because of what's gone on before, his initial reaction as soon as that
was wrong
out,
yeah,
but that's it. Like,
should have taken his medicine there.
Like why am I not looking? Like, everybody has seen this massive brawl in the middle of the pitch, 10 players including subs that have sprinted off from the bench in to get involved in this big massive fight, and I'm not thinking about whether they are right to be punished. I'm thinking about how I can get them off.
Even like Stevie McDonald, our own Stevie McDonald, he came out complaining about it. And Oshie McConville, like proper GAA men, like, they're still
Armagh men. I know.
Armagh men. It's this kind of, like, whether you like it or not, nobody looks at the bigger picture. They try to sort their own thing. They try to get off their own thing, and that's always the but how that then there's no solution to this.
Well, the only suggestion that I've heard that makes any way sense, whether it can be introduced in the GAA, is that a central disciplinary body comes in that independently reviews all these incidents.
But you see, you get that now. There's an appeals process. You know what I mean? I don't know. So, like, I mean, you obviously have your local CCCCs, and they'll rule on it, which they did rule on it, the Armagh, so you can't even accuse the Armagh County Board. Then it was appealed to the Ulster Hearings Committee that got them, you know what I mean, got them off. So, like,
does it exist in the GAA? Like, I think we've mentioned it before. Do you know where frivolous appeals are punished? But there's no frivolous appeals in the GAA because most of them are successful. But if you appeal something as what sounds to me that Limerick incident, I haven't seen the video, but it sounds ridiculous for somebody that ran 30 yards, elbowed somebody, and then a player has to get a facial reconstruction that he has a one game ban is completely wrong, and then he gets that overturned on appeal. So that if you appeal something like that some disciplinary body would say, you can't be seriously telling me you're appealing a one game ban for somebody that has caused somebody to get a facial reconstruction, and if they appeal it, that then they get 6 months as a result or something like that. Like, it requires a complete overhaul of the appeals process, but then you're getting mumbled and legal stuff
where everyone's entitled to a leave of option. It has to be pointed out that this is the Ballysteen GAA club's side of events.
Of course,
they say they have video evidence of it. So I'd be interested to hear the Ballylanders. So there's no names mentioned or anything in that, but it's definitely interesting if that's the extent of the injuries, and if they say the video evidence. Like, I wonder what the Laois or the Limerick County Board have seen to allow that appeal be squashed. Like, I mean,
if it took place away from play, I don't know what the counter evidence is. Like, did it happen in an innocuous shoulder? Obviously not, because it was away from the play. So I would imagine that in this case the video evidence maybe not be. I actually can't think of any reason how it was overturned.
Yeah, that's just come to light today, so we might get a look a little bit more into that for next week's shows. Championship draws on tonight, Conor, is probably passed most people by. I don't want to say too much about this. Every year I give out about this, so it's 53 days after the hurling final and it's 39 days after the football final. And now we're into next year's draw. Just when we were trying to build up a bit of excitement around the club game and we're hitting county finals time, not only is it terrible timing, it is completely underwhelming, because now there's no hurling draw anymore. So there's no Munster Championship draw. It's on round robin. So all it is a matter of saying who plays who when, because they all have to play each other.
Yeah.
Like there is the Munster and Leinster championships in hurling. The round robins are going to go over 6 weeks this year instead of 5 last year, which has given a bit of breathing room, which is fair enough. And I think the CCCC are expected to ask Central Council to do away with hurling quarter-finals next year, which would make absolute sense as well. They're a damn squib, even though there was a brilliant one last year between, wasn't it, Clare and Limerick went to extra time. But anyways, so now you're getting to football. So the draw is football. So Leinster, forget about it. The only thing you care about in Leinster is who gets on the opposite side of Dublin to get hammered in a Leinster final. So basically that's the excitement around Leinster. Who avoids Dublin? Who's on the other side? So Meath, Kildare would love to avoid Dublin. Laois, look, they all would. I'd say probably Kildare mostly, because that would be a decent Leinster final. And that's all the interest is there. Munster, I'm not even going to say any more about that. Connacht, who gets the Roscommon draw? Will we call it the Roscommon draw now? Who gets into that handy?
See, Connacht is different because Mayo have New York. It's their turn, and it's Galway's turn to play London. So there's not even I know there's different sides of the draw, but like a lot of that is predetermined already.
So they're avoiding each other till the final.
I'm not sure in terms of the sides of the draw, but I know Mayo are definitely in New York next year and Galway are definitely in London.
Right.
So you're on about Leinster there.
So forget about that. So
and it's basically the Ulster Championship.
It's basically the Ulster Championship. And let's be honest, like I can say this when you're here and Conor and Stevie MacDonald can't attack me. A lot of the Ulster counties are also Rans. The Downs, the Derrys are historically prestigious counties, but they're just not anymore. Cavan, brilliant All-Ireland winning, loads of All-Irelands, not at the races nationally anymore. So you've got Monaghan, Donegal and Tyrone that are at any decent level up there. So that's the championship draw really up there. So there's not even Ulster, which you would get excited about. Like that's not even that exciting anymore.
But you know what? At least they get a date to be it that the manager can shout at the players when they're running through the shit and muck in December. They can say, "Oh, it's all about May 26th," and it's still like 6 months away. Yeah. But it just goes back to, we've said this loads of times before. The Gaelic Football Championship is the GAA's biggest product and biggest competition, and it's the thing they do the worst job of marketing.
Yeah. No, exactly. So we'll definitely get on somebody from the GAA very soon to have a chat about a lot of things, pretty much the year in general, and maybe some of the broadcasting stuff, some of this violence. You could do a full show.
Good luck to him.
Right, Owen Murphy has been complaining on Twitter, and rightly so. His sister is due to play 2 provincial finals with her clubs. This is in London. So she plays with Tara Camogie, and she plays with Kingdom Kerry Gales in football. And she's not the only dual player with these 2 clubs. Sarah McNichol from Antrim and Lucy Hawkes from Cork. So both games are provincial finals. Both games are on Sunday. Both games are going to take place at the same time, only they're going to take place 200 miles apart from each other. So it's just absolutely shocking stuff, really. Like, I mean, that this would happen. Again, it's Helen Murphy, his own sister. You see a lot of these comments, and like, I mean, sometimes I feel sorry for the GAA, because like, and when often people say the GAA, who they're talking about, like it's obviously GAA management in Croke Park, right? When everything goes wrong, the GAA get blamed, even though the culprits are often county boards who won't stick to their fixtures, who listen to county managers all the time, who won't do things properly. The GAA get it. So, like, I mean, I see comments online about the GAA, like this is the LGFA. It's nothing to do with the GAA. The GAA offered the LGFA to come on board under the same umbrella as GAA, and they were turned down. This was under Peter O'Neill, who's a Laois man's tenure. So I'm not even going to entertain the GAA being given out. So Owen Murphy tags into women's GPA, and I don't fancy his chances getting a response to them, because I left them a voicemail maybe 6 weeks ago and I'm still waiting on the response. Their response to the whole Carnacon and Mayo thing was pathetic, to put it mildly. They tagged in ladies football and official camogie. So I don't really know where people are using that as a stick to beat the GAA when it's nothing to do with GAA.
Yeah.
And let's hope that the LGFA kind of at least go fix this mess, because that's not fair. That's I mean, that wouldn't happen.
No,
like no matter how bad things get within the GAA, it wouldn't go that bad.
It's an awful situation to be in. Just reading up about it there, she's played with the hurling team for 10 years, the camogie team, for 10 years. She's vice captain, I think. She's played with the football team for 9 years. I assume she knows the girls who play on both teams so well and doesn't want to let any of them down. She's even thinking about one of the solutions offered, which sounds crazy to me, but I'm sure because there's actually a viable chance of her playing the two games, and all the girls playing the two games, they might entertain it, is that the football game to be played in London on the Saturday morning, and that all the girls go get a train 200 miles to York and play the camogie game, or it could be vice versa. But
the next day or later?
No, later that day. Yeah, because apparently while these might not be under the body of the GAA, they kind of possess the same stubbornness, in that like neither side wants to step down, neither side wants to be seen to give way from what Helen Murphy was saying about it. So at the moment,
step down.
I know.
Like how can you not step down from fixing two games on the same time involving the same players?
Be the bigger person, be the bigger body.
You
about
don't even
it.
have to be the bigger person. You have to just use your brain.
Of course, yeah.
You know, like it's crazy.
But
like
the fact that this happened,
they double down on it like that.
The same year that Ciara Malloy and Liam Silk had to play a club semi-final, then head off to play a Sigerson final. Just crazy. Yeah,
that was crazy. And the GAA definitely got it from that, because that is a structural issue which the GAA can potentially fix. Peter Keane has been confirmed as the new Kerry manager. A little bit underwhelming for me. Rated all right in Kerry from my sources, like it's not a Jim McGuinness type appointment or anything, but Donny Buckley's on the ticket, which is absolutely important.
Huge, yeah.
Maurice Fitzgerald is on the ticket, which gives it that star quality, and Tommy Griffin, who is a great stalwart, and James Foley as well. So the whole management team looks a good one
as a whole. Yeah.
So like, I mean, you look at it often, the manager, like, he's do a lot of delegation. Once your backroom team is solid, they're taking care of the nuts and bolts of it, you know. Like, I mean, then manager really will have to talk about a game plan. Donny Buckley can influence that strongly. You know, then he might be responsible for changes during matches. He has to chat with Donny Buckley, Maurice Fitzgerald. Now, I'm not painting Peter Keane as someone who doesn't know what he's talking about at all. It's just maybe not a star quality one. Like, I mean, he's clearly a good manager and has a good football brain. So the point I'm making is the management team in total looks a really strong one.
Yeah. You said your sources in Kerry say he's all right, but you have to remember the sort of standards in Kerry are so high, so he could be really, really good. But what struck me about it was that he has still got Maurice Fitzgerald on board, despite the fact that Maurice Fitzgerald was considered a contender in his own right. So I don't know, maybe they know each other kind of well, and that was an arrangement that Peter Keane had agreed in advance that Maurice Fitz would come on board. But from the outside, it strikes me that, like, Peter Keane must be confident enough that he's okay to have somebody on board that was a competitor for the same job. Donny Buckley, big thing. Just heard Aidan O'Shea talking this week. He reckons that Kerry will get way more defensively solid as a result of Donny Buckley coming on board. And like, I just over the years hearing Mayo players talk about, as well as him being a really good thinker on the game and tactical thinker in the game, that he improved their tackling no end. And I think that was evident. We've often talked here about one of the reasons that Mayo could kind of face Dublin one-on-one in like line up their defenders one-on-one against the Dublin attackers, was athletically they could match up with them, but because they could tackle them hard as well. And from what I believe, that Donny Buckley has had a huge kind of influence on that too. And just from defensively, I think Eamon Fitzmaurice would probably even say that his biggest issue was trying to sort out the heart of that defence in particular, but a defensive structure, whether to go sweeper or whether to go not. So if Donny Buckley and, like, in tandem with Peter Keane, the lads, is going to devise a better strategy for Kerry, then it sounds good. But I think the Kerry County Board are already talking about Sam next year, so no pressure.
No pressure. Well, that's what Tim Murphy. So Tim Murphy is kind of into a bit of self-congratulations anyway. So he says, I thought this was funny. I might as well just read it out. So this Tim Murphy, delighted with himself really for picking this manager now, because it dragged on a little bit, and he's like, well, look, it was difficult, whatever. So he says, to get to the stage we got to took a bit of an effort. an effort all worthwhile. That is down to the calibre of people, Peter Twiss, Terence Houlihan and Eamon Whelan, who were there along by myself. They didn't deviate at all, notwithstanding the external pressures. Get in there, will you? What a panel. Jeez, you came through for Kerry.
Fair play to them for unearthing this manager from nowhere.
Who's with the minors. Like, I mean, it's a classic, really. So, like, I mean, really, the next All-Ireland winning Kerry captain needs to dedicate this hour to Tim.
Before I thank the players, I want to thank.
There are 4 men we have to thank. Right, I think we have time for Aidan O'Shea was talking. He was doing the media rounds. And he was talking about himself being a team player, and I don't know where it's almost having to defend himself for being a divisive figure. And for me, I don't see him being anything but a team player. And I think anyone that knows anything about Gaelic football will say Aidan O'Shea is the ultimate team player, if anything else. So he's saying, talk to James Horan, talk to Stephen Rochford, Pat Holmes, Noel Kennelly. He said, I'm a very conforming individual in terms of being a team player. Maybe it's the way I'm built. But if I see something we can improve on, I'm not going to shy. I'm not going to sit by and say nothing. I don't think you want anyone like that anywhere. I don't think you want anyone like that anywhere. That's not divisive. We want to improve things. I'd like to. I'd be like that, and it doesn't go anywhere beyond that. I think the kind of thing that Aidan O'Shea is a prima donna, and this is the Bernard Flynn selfie things and all that. Like, I mean, I think it's unfair. He's played in all positions on the field without any problems at all. Does his best. Is a hard worker. Leaves it all out into the field. So for him to have to defend himself from not being a team player, I thought they were strange quotes.
Well, I think you and I know there's one person to blame for all this, Willie. It's Jimmy Sloan. You know, the O'Sheas, the O'Connors, Andy Moore, and they rule that dressing room. So when that video goes so viral, it's no surprise that people think that O'Shea is so divisive.
Now, I'd say he is a big voice in the dressing room.
I think so.
I'd say there's no doubt about that. Now, whether, like, I mean, not to Cora Staunton levels, I would imagine.
No.
Or Fiona McHale levels. But, like, I mean, I think at the same time, I don't think there's anything wrong if a player sees something to say it. Now, when you're asked, I think is the most important thing. I think that was one thing that the Mayo ladies were just given their opinions when they weren't really wanted. There's always comes a point in the year where managers will ask you what you think, and that's when you let them know what you think. Or in a team meeting when all players are asked what they think. That's the environment to say what you want, and there's nothing wrong with it.
I think it'd be a common perception amongst about the Mayo footballers that a lot of the standards there, while they were brought in by James Horan and kind of brought on again by Stephen Rochford and the other managers, was that a lot of it is player driven, and like the standards are kept so high because the players kind of demanded it be kept so high. But just like because it's from Mayo, but like I would hear that perception about Aidan O'Shea that he's a divisive figure. And I think it's just because. Is there
a grain of truth to it, or
I don't think so, but I think it's purely because of his profile, and I think it's going back to the Bernard Flynn selfies thing. I can't think of any other footballer or many other footballers in the country that would be the subject of a ridiculous, like, it wasn't even an accusation, but such a big deal was made about a player taking selfies with a bunch of kids after the game. I think there's only a few players in the country that could be at the centre of a story like that, and one of them is Aidan O'Shea.
I think the Noel Kennelly or Twitter followers or Instagram followers dig was aimed at him as well. Like, maybe this is all leading into this. Then
I was about to say that the only tangible evidence, and you could it's definitely doubtable evidence about Aidan O'Shea potentially being a divisive figure, goes back to the interview that Pat Holmes and Noel Kennelly would have given to Martin Breheny after they left the setup, obviously under certain circumstances at the end of 2015, and there was stuff about Aidan O'Shea wanting to do the toughest that time, and there was stuff about him you know, having an influence on kick-out strategy and stuff like that, and that was all in the interview. So to me, that's the only tangible evidence of Aidan O'Shea potentially being a divisive figure. I would doubt it because, like you, anything I can see and anything I've heard maybe about the Mayo setup would that he's as big a team player as you could get, and like as you said, I think that's shown through his selflessness kind of over the years. He's never been a selfish player in general, but to be willing to sacrifice yourself, play in different positions, all for the good of the team.
And like, I mean, probably knows his limitations in that he's not a brilliant scorer and will lay things off.
I think
It doesn't look like he's out for himself on the field. We don't know what happens behind the scenes, but from evidence of what I see,
Yeah.
He's absolutely on the pitch a team player.
No, 100%.
There's no doubt. Brian Cody has been confirmed, so there's a lot of managerial kind of appointments, but Kilkenny won't be one of them. So he's going into his 21st year in charge. So he's closing in on Sean Boylan's 23 years with Meath, which is a record. So you'd imagine Brian Cody will surpass that, because Sean Boylan won many All-Irelands, 4 All-Irelands with Meath. Cody has about 44 All-Irelands. So Cody's not under any pressure. He'll stay for as long as he wants to, and I don't think anybody in the country has a problem, with that. So there's not much more. We're not really going to talk about that. It was just, I thought it was interesting that he's closing in on Sean Boylan. Brian Cody being reappointed isn't really news.
No, not really. Not at this stage, no.
It's not really news. Jonny Cooper has been doing the rounds in the media. He's on all the websites, including our own, if you want to read it. I thought it was interesting on Sports Joe. In 2013 All-Ireland final, Jonny Cooper wore number 4. 2015 he wore number 2. 16 he wore number 3. 17 he wore number 5, and 18 he wore number 6. Now that doesn't mean he played in all those different positions. Mostly he was playing cornerback, but it's just Jim Gavin. It's just numbers don't really mean anything. Like, that's incredible. Like, even so maybe 10 years ago that would be bizarre.
Oh yeah,
you know. But this isn't even a big deal, because Jonny Cooper is your man marking cornerback. He'll just wear loads of different positions. He'll play sweeper a little bit now as well. He's kind of evolved into that. But he was asked what position he likes the most, and I was surprised at this, because he played wing back all his career, as far as I know, until Jim Gavin converted him into a cornerback, and he says he'd take the full back line. I like that kind of stuff. So I was surprised to hear what Jonny Cooper has done is turned himself from a footballing wing back, a footballer now, a scrawny footballer, into a fella that really enjoys the marking side of the game and wants to keep his man scoreless. I remember reading an article about Rio Ferdinand, maybe it was from his autobiography. He started as centre forward, and when he went back centre back, he got no buzz really out of centre back, because like the buzz is about scoring. But he said over time his mentality completely changed, and clean sheets gave him the buzz, and dispossessions gave him the buzz, and all this. So Jonny Cooper has followed the same path as Rio Ferdinand, and now he gets a buzz out of that man-to-man kind of one-on-one. I'll take you on, and I'll try and keep you scoreless.
Yeah, I'm just surprised that he said he likes cornerback. I just can't believe that anyone likes cornerback for having been there. No, of course, and it's good to hear, because
especially after playing wing back.
Yeah, of course. But you often hear these days that, like, managers or players will say, it's a different game now. You know, you can, if you're cornerback, that doesn't mean anything. If you were in number 2, you could be at one end of the pitch.
But you notice he stopped doing that.
Oh, I know he has, but it's good to hear somebody say that. Like,
I know it is. But he's evolved, and I always thought that Jonny Cooper almost player of the year form by getting up the field scoring points, because that's what's eye-catching, and he's given that up to really perfect the art of marking. Like, I mean, it's a strange one what he's after doing.
There could be something in that, whether he kind of, as you said, he enjoys the one-on-one combat, but it could be a thing that he recognised. Well, Jack McCaffrey here are going to play a wing back, and I've the likes of Brian Howard, who occasionally played their wing back, but the quality that Dublin have in their full back line, and I'm not saying that Jonny Cooper's not as good at them going forward, but maybe he recognised that, like, well, I'm more likely to get in the team in the full back line as I am in the half back line with fellas as good as that going forward. Yeah, no, exactly. And he's asked he says he has a bit of OCD when it comes to breaking down technique of defending, so he maybe reads it a little bit, but he says hand-eye coordination, fast footwork and timing are the most important skills in the art of defending. So he says, I just work on the pillars around it, so the footwork, the timing, the hand placement, the eye. Some people kind of find it boring with the intricate breakdowns of what happens, but I don't. I just try and break it down as best as I can and work on the individual components. Like, I would find that boring, going training and working on that kind of stuff, but I can completely see, right? So hand-eye coordination, obviously getting your hand in. The fast footwork, I think, is interesting. The timing is obviously, like, you'll tell any defender not to rush in, to wait, because every 4 steps you have to bounce it or you have to solo it. That's when you get your timing in and knock the ball away. So the good defenders don't waste their energy slapping a ball, because let's be honest, how many times will a forward, unless it's a really wet day, you're not dislodging that. All you're doing is getting yourself off balance for when they do get to play it. So, like, I mean, you have to be patient. You wait until they play it. That's your timing. That's what he's talking about there. That's the hand-eye coordination. That's the timing. The footwork, I think, is a little bit different. I'd be interested to see what he means in that. And I suppose it's just getting yourself into that position
that you're close enough to him when he goes to play it. So it's all about when he plays it. And this is what Jonny Cooper is practicing. His footwork, his timing, all these things around it. How you practice your timing, I suppose, is just in one-on-one drills and things like that. I'd like to actually, because I've been out of the game since 2011, and in fairness, I didn't receive good coaching throughout my career. Any coaching that I'm kind of talking about now are things I would think I would do with players if I was a manager, because I often thought these are some things I would like to have been shown. You have to figure them out in your own head.
I wonder whether when he says he practices them himself, but how much of that is practiced by the Dublin team as a whole, or is it kind of individual one-on-one coaching, or is it individual stuff that he works away from the training pitch? I would imagine they work on a lot of that stuff.
They have time. You see, this is it. He's talking because he was over with Saracens and he was talking about a lot of similarities in training and preparation. He said the obvious difference is they have 8 hours per day if they want.
Of course,
and GA teams. So when I think Jonny might be doing this on his own, or maybe they do just a technique-based session on a Saturday, and the forwards go one end and the defenders talk about things that, and try and improve things. And imagine that's the level that the inter-county teams are at. Yeah,
some of the best time tackles I've seen this year have been from Paul Mannion, and the famous ones where he kind of got back, but he dispossessed them at just the right time, just as a man was taking a solo. And I know from being, you're told that in drills, you're told like wait till the timing is right, but when you're in the middle of the match, it's hard to execute it just like that.
It is. Well, Mannion can do it because he's so fast. Speed is a huge thing, because if you can't stay up beside him, you're not going to tap it away when he plays it.
But I get with the Jonny Cooper when he's on about OCD. It reminds me of John O'Shea tells a great story when he went over to United about realising the standard. He walked out on the training pitch his first day. He saw Gary Neville's shadow defending on his own, so there's nobody near him, but he was pretending as if there was a forward beside him, and how he defended in that situation. And I don't know how true it is, but I know a guy who used to go to college with Jonny Cooper, and he said that he used to bring around an O'Neill's with him, walking around in between lectures and stuff like that, to improve the hand-eye coordination and just to be used to an O'Neill's. As I said, it could be complete bollocks, but it just fades. It goes well into this kind of narrative.
I think it's a part of visualization. Maybe they're doing it's stuff that I am a little bit too old to be entertaining. We've talked about visualization before, but maybe he does it like shadow boxing. What's the point of shadow boxing? Maybe he does it on his own, like Gary Neville, and he just talks himself through it and visualizes somebody being there and all that old stuff. But anyways, this will tell you. He's going around to rugby teams and trying to pick things up, and that's all fine. So he spent time with Saracens and Leinster, and I don't know what you're going to get from a rugby team, because whether you like it or not, rugby is a very low skilled sport. There's only probably 1 or 2 players on the team that are efficient at kicking, that are skillful kickers, which is bizarre out of 15. Half the team from 1 to 8, you see them kicking a ball is just it's unless maybe Sean O'Brien can do it, but in general their kicking wouldn't be great, so you're not getting anything out of them. So this all sounds great. It was over with them and just trying to pick a few things up, and then I'm thinking, what the hell are you picking up?
I know.
So then he gives an example. This is in the 42, so he gives an example and he says, when they're throwing a pass, to finish their fingertips towards the target. Just little things like that we could potentially use in the hand pass in terms of making sure the ball is placed on the man where it should be. So that's really reaching now, because in rugby you obviously use your fingertips to put a spin on the ball, right? So they'll follow through a little bit like maybe basketball, where you keep your hand down, when you throw a big long well, anyway, it's a natural follow through with rugby, and you're throwing sideways in rugby. But like in GAA, your hand passing, your natural follow through from a hand pass is going to follow through. That naturally happens. You don't. If you see a fella in front of you, you don't hand pass the ball and follow through in a different direction. So I don't know. I think
I question it a little bit too. You're just trying to reach when you're go over and spend time, see how the professionals do it and whatever. But don't try and pick up skills from rugby when it's just, I don't think they don't overlap. It sounds like it's reaching a bit. If you're going to take something from a professional sport, take sort of like culture. That's kind of what, to be honest.
I think it's more for managers to go over there and see.
Yeah. But what annoyed me about that is that nearly every GAA team in the country now sweeps the dressing room after matches because the All Blacks did it. So if that's the only thing they're learning from a culture, well then they need to kind of maybe expand their horizons a bit more. But no, he's obviously, I suppose the important thing for Jonny Cooper is that he thinks he's gaining something from
that's
it.
That's exactly
it.
It's
head.
Each to their own. So I can make light of it, but that's neither here nor there. He's 5 All-Irelands and it works for him. So what the hell am I talking about? Finish up on the Dublin jersey here, Conor, because I nearly fell off the chair when I said I saw their €70. Now, this is their new jersey. I think they've had the other one for 3 years, Eric Lawler told me in the office. I thought it was a little bit more recent than that, but he says 3 years. And I loved the jersey they just had, the blue and white. Now, there's no dark navy. Now, it was a bit of a reach away from their traditional. There's always dark navy in the Dublin jersey. They're gone back to their dark navy, but it's at the end of the sleeve, and I just don't like it.
Yeah,
I don't like
thrown in there. Yeah,
thrown in there. And look, obviously Mayo came out with a new jersey. These are scams.
An unbelievable new jersey.
In fairness, that is nice for Mayo because red and green is not a nice combination of colours. But it's a cool jersey. It's a bit of a rip off of the Kerry jersey, I have to say, but at the same time it is cool. Kerry jersey has always been cool. Yeah. But it's €70, and it's getting nearly like the soccer now, where they're that expensive. And the counties are going to bring out a new one every year.
Well, that surprised me that it's been 3 years.
3 years. I'd say that most counties will do it every year. Like, what's the point? You get them sponsored, you get a name on it, and I don't know. There'd be loads of people in Dublin buying the new jersey. I hate the shorts, by the way. They're two-tone shorts. What are they doing?
Yeah, I don't like them either. Yeah.
What are they doing with that?
But that's it. It surprises me that it's been 3 years since the last Dublin jersey. I thought it had gone that way already. I thought Dublin had released a jersey earlier than that, because it wouldn't surprise me if it goes that way, to release a new jersey every year.
Now, we're not confirming Eric Lawler is exactly right. He has been wrong before.
Yeah,
but he's a true blue dub, and I thought that maybe it's better than me guessing.
But even the reveals anymore, have you noticed now that they don't just put the jersey out there? See the video that went
Dublin
into
did a 3-day countdown.
Yeah, and they had a close up of the stitching machine putting the crest up there and everything. It's turning into the Premier League.
Yeah, so. €70. You could, if somebody gave me €70 for free, a county jersey, how far down the list would that be? Like, I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, I told you earlier as well.
It's just for children, really, I suppose. Like, I mean.
Yeah, because I remember looking a couple of years ago before an All-Ireland final for just something Mayo to wear, because I didn't have any. The jersey I had was years and years old, so I needed something new. But all the gear, all the paraphernalia around it was €50 and upwards. So I ended up buying a green t-shirt for a tenner. I was happy out.
Yeah, that's enough. Feck it, will be grand. Look, at least you have reason to wear yours. You look a bit, I suppose, on All-Ireland final day, if you don't have the colours on, you're a bit of a dry.
Yeah, of course.
It's like going to fancy dress, just wearing your own clothes. You're a bit of a dry.
You're that guy. Yeah.
You're that guy. You don't want to be that guy. I don't have those problems, because Laois don't go get near All-Ireland. Right, we'll come back with Leighton Glynn. Alright, so the Wicklow County Finals on this weekend between Rathnew and St Patrick's. Leighton Glynn is going to be bidding for his 22nd championship medal. Yes, you've heard me right, 22nd county title, Leighton. He's on the line now. That must be a national record.
I'm not quite sure, Colm, to be honest. I think there could be a couple of guys ahead of me.
Really?
Yeah, I think there might be, maybe a guy from Vincent's, I think, that might have hurling football. And then there's certainly a fella in Mayo. The name now escapes me, but I think he's up around the 25 or 26. So
Jesus,
serious haul, but
it is, yeah. But you're not finished yet. Like, I mean, let's you can easily catch up here. Is he pushing on, this Mayo fella?
Oh, I think he's well done. I think
he's
done. Back in the 60s or 70s, yeah. He was a dual player, obviously, to kind of gather up that amount of championships. But look, it's a good position to be in, and it's kind of like goes to show you had a decent old club career,
Yeah, because like, I mean, you've 11 football, you've split them almost perfectly. 11, you're going for your 12th football this weekend, and you have 10 hurling, and you're in the hurling final. So you could be adding 2 more this weekend. So like I'm just trying to paint a picture, like just to be that consistent in both the hurling and the football. It's like it's a great reflection on both clubs. Yeah,
certainly. And I suppose my kind of career has kind of coincided with kind of the most successful time of both clubs,
Don't be bragging now. Don't be bragging now, Leighton.
It's I don't know if it's me or the club. Well, I'm lucky in that sense. We've just had that kind of period that both clubs have done so well, and it's a serious amount of county finals to be involved in, never mind to have won. So I appreciate how lucky I am in that sense,
Yeah, exactly. So you have St Patrick's this weekend, and I was just I know all about Rathnew. I've played against she. I don't know much about St Patrick's. They've lost the last 3 county titles, but this is a big local derby. Like, you're only out the road from them.
Yeah, it's a parish. It's kind of both clubs are in the same parish technically. St Pat's are the town club, and we're just kind of on the periphery of the town, if you like. So serious rivalry there. To be kind of families, you know, that would interconnect through both clubs and that kind of thing. And we would have had the upper hand certainly since 2004. But they would have had a bit of a coup in 2004. They stopped us for doing 9 in a row.
Right.
They haven't really. We've kind of championship-wise, knockout games, we've probably won since then till now, and there would have been 2 or 3 finals thrown in there, as well as a few semi-finals. So all to play for come Sunday. Like, you know, we know each other inside out. So it'll be an interesting one.
Yeah, so that was it. So St. Pat's have lost 3 of the last 4 finals, and you've beaten them in 2 of them. So like you said, you've had the upper hand.
Correct.
And it's Wicklow. They're obviously the Wicklow town. So they're the townies, and you're the country boys coming in to knock them off their perch. Is that, or you've already knocked them off their perch?
Yeah, well, I suppose they're coming to knock us off our perch.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the town team, and they're a tidy little team now. They're kind of brought a few young lads through, so we're under no illusions that's going to be a tough one for us. You know yourself, as a kind of team that dominates. You know, personally, they're from Portlaoise. Everyone's out to get you.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't. You have to be on the ball every day you go out. So we just have to make sure we're clued in.
That's the thing. But like, I mean, even mentioning Portlaoise have dominated Laois football for a long time, but like Rathnew have been dominating Wicklow now since 1996, and like you're only a small town in Ockram, like near Ockram. Like, I mean, how have you managed to sustain it? I presume this is about your 3rd team. You've been there solid since 1998-99.
Yeah, yes, I suppose since '99. But I think kind of success breeds success, really. And you know, we've young lads in the village there and locally that kind of see you coming back into the town, into the village on the truck, and to see what goes with winning a championship. And we do celebrate them fairly well down around their way. So they want to be involved, and I think the key has been with Rathnew. We've kind of always brought 2 to 3 young lads into the panel when they're kind of to train, even before they start to play or make it onto the senior team, and kind of encourage them to be involved. And that's kind of a process that we've always done, I suppose, over the last 15 to 20 years, and it's worked, you know. So
you won the Leinster title in 1999. You were only 18 or 19 at that.
A couple of years later, 2001, we won the Leinster title. We beat Nafina.
That was it. Yeah. No, I got that wrong, because Nafina actually beat us in the semi-final that year. That was it. It was 2001.
Yeah, 2001. Yeah, we played 3 games actually to get into 3 in the quarterfinal against Dunshaughlin from Meath. Then we played Edenderry. We got over them in 1 game in the semi-final. Then played Nafina. That went to a replay. I think we beat them by about 9 or 10 points after extra time the second day. So that was
in Newbridge, wasn't it?
That was in Newbridge, and it was actually the 23rd of December. It was the day before. It was the day before Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
they were full of superstars. Kieran McGeeney, Sherlock, Desi Farrell. Serious team, yeah.
So you like your joint killings with the Dubs anyways, because last year obviously you weren't given a hope, and have to hold my hands up on the podcast here, we didn't give you a hope. And I remember reading out quotes of yours before the game, and you said we can only play our own game, win on our own strengths. I know most teams go out against Vincent's and tend to flood the defence. That wouldn't be our style at all. And we were kind of saying, Jesus, Leighton, you might need to change your style against St. Vincent's. But like, I mean, Leighton Glynn knew better than everybody else, so you kind of like those joint killings.
Yeah, look, it was a surprise to everyone else, and I can see everyone's thinking behind it, you know. But honestly, we knew we were in with a shout to beat Vincent's. We're fortunate enough to get a good look at them, because the few games were on Air Sport, their semi-final and their final, and we just felt the way we always play, we tried to push up on teams and squeeze them, and try not give that away from kickouts and stuff. And we just seen teams sitting off Vincent's, and you know, we knew they wouldn't be at the top of their game, or we're going to treat, even though they're probably saying in the dressing room, you have to treat these lads with respect. They were probably coming down thinking, this might be tight for 20 minutes here, 25 minutes, and we'll pull away.
Yeah.
But we knew if we could, as long as we could stay in the game coming into down the stretch, the last 10 minutes, then you put yourself in a position, and we worked really, really hard to get ourselves into that position, and then we just got a goal at the right time, and I think Vincent's there was no way back for them after that,
Yeah. So, that really is, when Dublin can't be beaten at the inter-county level. I think that result last year, it just gave everybody in Leinster a bit of hope that at club level the Dublin champions, because Portlaoise haven't been able to get over that line against the Dublin champions at all in the last 10 years.
Yeah, no, certainly, and look, as you say, it gives everyone else that bit of confidence. But yourself in club football, there is more shocks probably in club football than inter-county football. They're more common, I suppose.
Yeah.
Pick the best team in each county in Leinster, take out the dubs. Portlaoise, when they were going really well, so anyone else then is even enough. So if you can, like a Longford team could come down and beat us, and we go and beat a Meath team, so that wouldn't often happen in inter-county. Like a Wicklow doesn't beat Meath on any given day,
Yeah.
It's kind of, it takes it's a bit more sparse, if you like, than that.
Yeah, no, it is. Come here, what's the form like anyways? You're still moving well, my sources tell me. You finished up playing inter-county, I think, really young for you at 32. So, has that benefited your club career now, or do you think maybe you might have hung up the boots a bit too soon?
No, I don't think I did. I had a serious think about it at the time. I broke the leg the ankle against Meath in the championship in 2013. I got back. I couldn't play 14. I got back and played 1 year. Sorry, I got back and came back and played football. Done a year of it, and then gave up the football and just said I was going to give the hurling a year, as it was kind of a shorter period of a season, and then kind of prolong the club career, if you like. And I think it's worked out. I feel a lot fresher now when I'm playing club football and club hurling. The only thing is, when you give up the county and you're a dual player, they expect you to do both then, hurling and football in club, so
Yeah.
It's kind of a catch-22 in that sense. But certainly the training load, just kind of inter-county training these days, is it's just crazy now, even thinking about what we done as a 4th division team under Miko, and I suppose the year we won the Division 4 with Harry, that commitment, that effort, kind of that discipline you have to be down around the basement division, even when I think back, I was going, at times, was it all worth it, but it's just you enjoy it at the time, and that was the main thing,
Yeah, it's kind of your way of life. You don't know any better, don't you? That's just, you just do it.
Exactly, and you don't think of it any other way, but people looking in will go, Jesus, you're mad, but
Yeah. I was thinking maybe it was Miko's training had you retiring at 32.
No, I can't blame it on Miko now. Like others, I know a few that did blame poor old Miko, but I won't blame Miko. Look, you were there and you done it. It's tough. It's the toughest training I did through my whole career, and I trained under tough managers at Rath News at the beginning, because it was more old school and it was all about running, but nothing prepared you for Miko's running, especially them winter nights. You just question your sanity sometimes running around.
You would, and you almost go into a trance where you've done 2 or 3 laps and you're like, Jesus, because he used to do it with us, like he might send you for 7, then he'd send you for 12, then he'd send you for 3, and he thinks this is kind of mix it up. But you almost go into, like, you kind of switch off, and suddenly you might be only 1 to go. Like, I mean, I don't know, you start daydreaming, but you get yourself through the torture, and I think that's why he does it. It's a kind of a mental test rather than, and it does get you fit, I suppose. There's no science behind it.
Yeah, and that was it. And Miko said it out straight to me one day. He said, it was just like a comment, like, I said, Jesus, Miko, come on. And he was like, look, most of these boys won't be here in 2 or 3 weeks. And he was just letting me know, like, just go on there and get on with it. And then, 2 or 3 weeks, the panel will be cut and we'll move on, kind of thing. And, that's the way it was. I think someone said to him one night, was giving out, come on, Miko, change it up, do something different. And he literally did just say, lads, turn around and run this way.
Yeah,
run the laps that way.
He did the same with us. Yeah, he mixed it up by sending you in the opposite direction. But the gas thing with Miko was that training was so hard, but then he almost flipped the switch. The minute the long evenings came in, you just played football every night. So that was like the opposite. It was really enjoyable.
And that was it, and I think that's what, you knew that was coming. You were counting down the weeks until the bright evenings and coming up to championship and till the league was over. And he was so, not flippant about the league, but when he was with us, he never once mentioned about winning a league. He just always, from the start of the year, who we knew we were playing in championship,
Yeah.
that's all he focused on.
Yeah, no, he was
Now,
the same with
I
us.
think that's all right when you're in Kerry. Maybe that was just what some people didn't get in our county about Micko. That's okay in Kerry, because you will have enough just to sustain your league position in Division 1. But in Wicklow, we kind of needed to go up the ranks.
True.
But Micko wasn't interested. He just wanted to go out on the big day, beat the big teams. And look, it worked for the most part of his kind of stint in Wicklow.
Yeah, no, I definitely. But the good thing about that is that sometimes if a manager's shouting at you during the league, he's no other level to go to then. But always knew when the league was over. Now the serious stuff, and you know what I mean. It's like you're going up another level, and maybe that's another psychological kind of thing that he was doing, which doing with us all that time. That in the minute that league over, that's out of the way now, and now it's the serious stuff. And suddenly then there was an extra kind of bite to training because it was championship time, and maybe that was his whole plan. John Evans came ringing you when he took over for you to come back playing. So your arm was nearly twisted there, was it?
Yeah. I thought John's a bit of a salesman. He can give a good pitch, He's well able to talk, as you know yourself.
Yes.
But we, I sat down with him in Macreddin and Ockram in Macreddin village there, and had a cup of coffee, and we had a good chat. We were there for about an hour and a half, and so a little bit of think about it then, but then he threw out maybe coming in and getting involved with the coaching end of it, and as a selector, he'd be happy that way, because I don't really like going back, when you've done something. And it was 3 years out of the inter-county game, and I was playing good club football, but it's a different story given that commitment and with family and work and that kind of thing after 3 years of adjusting, not doing it,
Yeah. So you enjoying the selector? Are you selector or selector coach, or do you do a bit of work down on the field? Or
selector coach, yeah. Look, we're in a place in Wicklow where we're kind of a little bit of transition, probably from Johnny's time, that probably didn't go too well, and kind of build a bit of confidence back up in the group. And John was bringing in his ideas, really professional now, and highly thought of in Roscommon and Tipperary, and he's bringing in, his way. And interesting been working with John as well. Like he's an interesting fella. So we're working hard. We've probably don't have a massive group of players or that quality, but we're trying to build a team that can kind of make up for maybe lack of individual quality, that kind of way.
Yeah, no, exactly, getting a team. But there's exciting times in Wicklow though, right? Because like you've underage, the minors were really good this year, like put it up to all the big teams, and a lot of work going on underage, because John Evans was telling me he's trying to restructure the whole county. Whether that has taken foot or not yet, I'm not sure. Yeah, no, he is. He's implementing a few good ideas, but we're in a ridiculous situation last year, and it's a kind of a classic GAA kind of thing. It only happened maybe in the GAA, whereas we wanted to bring lads through to give them inter-county senior experience, so we had 5-6 under-21s. They were quality enough that they could make our team. We were left in a situation with a rule that the GAA brought in that they couldn't play their own age group, which is fine if you're a player in Dublin that you're playing at every level, every grade, but the Dubs don't have many. They'd have 1 or 2 under-21s maybe getting on their senior team, the same as Meath. So we couldn't play our 5 best under-21s at their own age group because we needed them for senior. And it's kind of one of them rules that was probably rushed in, wasn't proper thought out, and here we are left 5 short for our under-21 championship because they played senior. So you're kind of taking something away from them for being a good footballer, and you weren't burning them out or anything like that, Yeah, no, well, like, I mean, a good few counties have suffered like that. Even Kerry are missing the 5 seniors, and the young Johnson fella from Offaly, who was the opposite. He he wasn't allowed to play senior. He was told to stick with the under-20. So it has caused issues in counties. But there is good. You were games development officer for a while there, were you?
I was, yeah. I was involved there for 8 to 9 years. Yeah, I think it was 8 years. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And
there was, it took kind of a while to get the team going regarding the squads, but we kind of have an independent group that kind of work alongside, say, the county board for where they're called the Garden County Academy, and we're starting to see the fruits of that now. We got to the Leinster semi-final there. Kildare beat us after a replay.
The minors,
and the under-17s, yeah, and blooded through a lot of really good young players with a good set-up. Kevin O'Brien involved, and Garrett Doyle, one of the GDAs. And them guys really performed, and performed when it wasn't really expected of them early on, but then when there was a bit of expectation on them, they played really well. They were very unfortunate to lose the replay in Ockram. Probably should have won the first game in Newbridge, and then everyone seen how good Meath were at that level. So we're one of the young lads, Owen Darcy, the full forward, he was given a minor all-star. Now that's unheard of in Wicklow, so they are blooding the players now at the minute, yeah.
And is there more, like you said, there wasn't much expected of that team, or you were expecting, or is there under 16s, under 14s? Is like a lot of this work that's been done underage, or will we expect Wicklow to come through with another minor team next year, under 17 team next year, or was this a one-off?
They will be, no, you're correct. Our problem in Wicklow is before, I suppose with structures and other things, was that our problem age groups were coming when they were hitting 15 to 18. Now, maybe it's a plus to us that they brought the age back to under 17, and you can kind of keep them there, and you're playing a championship rather than waiting till they're under 18. Maybe that's helped us, but certainly we've a couple of good squads under 14s and under 15s that they'll use the same template to try get to where they squad are,
Right, okay. Just give us an idea of your kind of weekly routine as a games development officer in Wicklow, because we know that they're connected with the clubs in Dublin, and that seems to be the model everybody's talking about. So what would are you coaching the coaches in the clubs, or are you not going near the clubs at all? You're going to the schools? What's the weekly kind of...
Well, I'm actually away from it now 2 years, but it wouldn't have changed, say, an awful lot. So I left it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm in a complete different line of work, but it would to focus more now on the GDAs, if you like. The responsibilities will be to get in, and maybe it'd be more coach training, train up coaches, coach education in schools. So trying to build a coaching network,
right,
per se, and then they will filter down then into players. So they work hard on identifying good coaches for academy squads, and then one of the GDAs would oversee that plan for each age group. And then with the under 17s, where they went out and got a manager, they kind of went out, headhunted Kevin O'Brien. He'd have the name in the county. He would have coaching experience. He would have been involved with Ireland in international rules. So then Kevin would have put together a good kind of backroom team for the under 17 setup. So this is the template that they had in place, and in fairness, they've stuck to it. So I think they should nearly just replicate that again for the next 4 to 5 years and see where it can take us.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed it's going in the right direction. I presume you left the games development officer when you became a selector with the seniors. You'd be just swamped with GAA all day, between training, between games development during the day, and then the senior selector as well. You'd be driven demented.
It was actually a year before it, and I did, you're right there. The reason I left the games development was it was just getting just fatigued. Mentally fatigued because you were going out, maybe coaching in the mornings, probably have a couple of meetings, probably doing a school team after school before the lads went home, and then you're going out and putting on your boots and going club training. So eventually just something had to give, and I was like, I just wanted a new, something different professionally to go at rather than to stick at the coaching and games,
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, come here, I've taken up enough of your time. So you're going for 22 this weekend, you're going for 23 the following weekend, and you've plenty more years to catch this fella from Mayo, who we're thinking is in about 25, 26. So another couple of doubles. I was actually looking, I think 5 doubles out of the 11 and 10. So it's not happened every year or anything like that. It's been kind of year on, year off. So a double this year I'm sure would be nice.
How many? Sorry, what? 5 out of what? How many doubles?
Well, you've 11 football, 10 hurling, and 5 doubles. That's my counting now, so that could be inaccurate.
Yeah, no, you could be in around. Yeah, Yeah, it'd be nice to get 6 now, yeah.
Be nice to get 6. It'd be nice to catch this fellow in Mayo too, right?
Whoever it is, you might find out who he is for me.
I'm gonna keep a league table here now when I find out about this fellow in Mayo. Come here, Leighton. Best of luck at the weekend. Thanks for taking the call.
Colm. Cheers.
All right, Conor, we'll look ahead to the games at the weekend. So there's loads of county finals on. So these are on Sunday. You've got the Down Senior Football Championship final. That's in Park Elser. And that's between Burren and Kilcoo. Kilcoo are going for 7 in a row. So they've beaten Burren in 3 of those finals. But they only beat them by 2 points last year. So that's a pretty big game between 2 of the really big clubs in Down. Laois Senior Football Championship in O'Moore Park. Port Laois going for 11 titles in 12 years. Big news is that Brian McCormack is out. Brian McCormack won his first county title with Port Laois in 1999. Along with me, he came on as a sub that day. He'd be 2 years younger than me, but he's 38 now and he's still Port Laois' main man. He's an incredible club player.
Is he out now, or is he properly out?
He's out. He actually did try to appeal, because I tell you what he did. Now this will tell you on the lower end of the scale. So he wins a free, he's being tackled, your man won't get out of the way, so he kind of, when you kind of push your man, he kind of pushed him in the face, your man went down, he got a red card, and he didn't get off the appeal. They brought in the video evidence to show that what happened, and he didn't get off. Now you compare that with the stuff that happened, any of the other stuff we're talking about, and fellas getting off. So that's a real disappointment. So Dempsey's they're playing O'Dempsey's, and O'Dempsey's were back to intermediate about 2 years ago. They beat the Port Laois Intermediates with a penalty in the last minute to get to the intermediate county final 2 years ago. Okay, so that'll tell you what kind of challenge they have. Obviously not having Brian McCormack is a huge blow to Port Laois, but let's be honest, they should have enough to be able to win that. Leitrim Senior Football Championship final, O'Willan versus Mole Hill. They won 4 titles in the last 4 years, two each. Yeah. So that's a big one in Leitrim Senior Football Championship. O'Willan, is it? You're over that west. You're west. West. Can you pronounce that for me?
I think it's O'Willan.
O'Willan. Okay, all right, that's grand. I don't really know my Connacht pronunciation, but if a fella from Inchimach can't pronounce it, I don't know. Kilchimach. What did I say?
Inchimach, wherever that is. There could be an Inchimach in Mayo for all I know, but
Kilchimach. Should have known that. It is a well-known place. Longford Senior Football Championship replay. This is Abilara versus Mullinahochta. This is in Pierce Park. Robbie Smith, you'd imagine, will be back for Abilara. Let's hope for a better final than we had last week, which was 6-6, which is beyond belief. Meath Senior Football Championship final, Dunboyne versus Summerhill. Dunboyne coming off that sensational win in the semi-final, hammering defending champion Simonstown. Dunboyne last won in 2005. They haven't been back to the final at all since. So Dunboyne are slight outsiders. Paddy Power has them 5-6. Summerhill 5-4. So that's as close a county final as there's going to be. Of fairness, Abilara Mullinahochta looks pretty close as well. Roscommon Senior Football Championship. You have two of the real big guns there. Clonagale against St. Bridget's. That's in Dr. Hyde Park. For the first time in 21 years, St. Bridget's will meet their neighbours Clonagale in the county final. So two of the huge teams in Roscommon, and they haven't played each other that long. Bridget's have won 7 of the last 8 titles. Clonagale broke up that domination by winning it in 2015. Clonagale of Ulton Harney, Donny Shine. We know a lot about St. Bridget's already. So that's another really big one. So Clonagale are 4-7, Bridget's are 9-5. So a lot of people thought Bridget's were on the way out after they won that All-Ireland. It was an ageing team, but they've obviously come back strong. Maybe not on a national level, but definitely still well able to dominate in Roscommon.
Funnily enough, we actually trained in both Bridget's and Clonagale in the last few weeks. Kind of during the weekend, both Bridget's and Clonagale were training while we were training on different pitches, but they both looked in decent nick. I didn't realise, I should have known, but we were training in Clonagale.
Why? Because they both have lights, you don't have lights.
Both have lights, and they're both like, Clonagale is 5 minutes from Athlone, and we had fellas come from Dublin, from Mayo, from Limerick, Galway, etc. And Bridget's is only 5 minutes from Athlone as well. But with Clonagale, like, the really impressive setup, but they have all their list of honours kind of written on the walls, and like they won something like won 6 or 7 Connacht titles in a row. I think they've lost 4 All-Ireland finals or 5 All-Ireland finals.
I think they lost 4 in a row or something crazy.
Like that, yeah. But they've good pedigree anyway, so
they've good pedigree. They've good pedigree. That'll be a good one. So Offaly Football Championship final for Ban, 2-5 outsiders with Paddy Power, Road 5-2. They're the big team, obviously. They're going for 3 in a row. They're a little bit like St. Bridget's in that I don't think they're the threat in Leinster that they used to be, but they're still the dominant team in Offaly. So they beat Forban in the 2016 final by 114 to 9 points. So I don't know how much Forban have improved since then. They're going to have to improve a little bit. Wexford Senior Football Championship, Killenarin, that's Matty Ford's club, versus Shell Malliers. Never heard of that club in my life.
I can only look after the West.
Well, if I'm struggling with Killenarin, I'm definitely not getting Shell Malliers. Right, that's it. I don't have much information on this. In fairness, the Wexford Football Championship is not of a high standard. They never make any impact on the Leinster club at all. Wicklow Senior Football Championship final, Rathnew versus St Patrick's. We talked to Leighton about that already, so we can skip over that. Then Carlow Senior Hurling Championship final, Mount Leinster Rangers versus St Mullins. Right, you bet you know Mount Leinster Rangers more than St Mullins, because I do, because Mount Leinster Rangers made the breakthrough and won a Leinster club. In the last 7 years, Mount Leinster Rangers won 3 in a row, followed by 3 in a row for St Mullins. So St Mullins have won the last 3 in a row. So they've knocked Mount Leinster Rangers off their effing perch. And Mount Leinster won it last year. So Mount Leinster won it last year, then St Mullins 3 in a row, then before that 3 in a row for Mount Leinster. So that's a huge match in the Carlow, and Carlow Club Hurling is improving all the time. Cork Senior Hurling Championship final, Middleton versus Immochilly. That's in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Immochilly, I'm okay with that one as well. Middleton 2-5 outsiders, Immochilly 9-4 favourites. Immochilly are defending champions. Middleton last won it in 2013. Immochilly have Seamus Harnedy, Colm Spillane, Paddy O'Sullivan. They're an East Cork divisional side, so they can't go any further if they win that. So they won it for the first time in 19 years last year. Back in the final again. Middleton have Conor Lehan and Luke O'Kelly, so they're decent as well. So Middleton, I presume, will go on into the Munster Club Hurling. Outside of that, we have Dublin semi-finals, Ballyboden, Kilmacud. They're evens. Ballyboden evens, Kilmacud 11-10 with Paddy Power. St Jude's against Vincent's. Jude's are 1-3 and Vincent's are 3-1. Kerry semi-finals are on as well. Arguably the Dublin semi-finals and Kerry semi-finals are more interesting than any of the other county finals that have come before them. You have East Kerry versus Dingle. East Kerry, obviously David Clifford, 1-4 favourites to beat Dingle at 7-2. Kearns or Ratleys against Dr. Crokes. Kearns or Ratleys 1-5 outsiders. Or Dr. Crokes 1-5 favourites. Kearns or Ratleys 4-1 outsiders. Kearns or Ratleys have already beaten Crokes in the championship. They came back, Tommy Walsh's 2 goals and everything. So maybe they angered Dr. Crokes, and that's where Paddy
Power. Was your man
Power
Tony Brosnan playing that day against Kearns?
I don't think so. I think he came to the fore. So keep your eye out for Tony Brosnan. If Tony Brosnan wasn't playing, this would be even money. He's a new sensation. And the last one I'm going to leave to you is the Mayo semi-final replay. I actually forgot the Mayo semi-finals on the show on Monday. Castleberry versus Balan Tobruk. Castleberry 4-9 favourites. Balan Tobruk 9-4. Obviously Castleberry had a man sent off, didn't they, in the last match?
But they hadn't been, to be honest, they hadn't been playing great before they got the man sent off. You didn't really notice that they were down to 14 for the rest of the game. I do think Castleberry win. I think Balan Tobruk had, even though Balan Tobruk equalised in the last minute with a free, they were on top in extra time, and I think they'll regret not putting them away when they had their chance.
And Alan Dillon absolutely dived to get that one of those. Was that the last free in normal time?
It was the last free in normal
time. Outrageous dive, wasn't it? But the reason Alan Dillon gets that is because he doesn't dive, and he's a stalwart and he's respected, so he's held his dive in his pocket for a long time, and he used it when he really needed it at 37 years of age.
And they worked the ball to Alan Dillon specifically to win that free. In fairness to Alan Dillon, he was actually really good, got on loads of breaks for Balan Tobruk, kind of wandered around the pitch. Jim O'Connor was outstanding at midfield.
I think he's a midfielder.
Yeah,
what do you think?
So. Well, I think so. I think anyone that kind of watched him underage would have kind of thought that that's where he's going to end up eventually. I think it just gives him a bit more freedom. I think the last couple of years,
you're not married.
Yeah, and his engine is outrageous. The amount of punishment he took, and I'm not saying it was dirty or anything, but like, because he was on the ball so much on Saturday night, he was at the end of a fair few hard enough tackles. And it's always the case with Jeremy O'Connor that he goes down the ground, you think, oh, that's him gone, because he's on the ground for a good 2 minutes.
There is an element of theatrics with him, though. I think he makes the most of the contact, and he maybe I'm being a bit harsh on him, but he absolutely makes the most of whatever contact he gets.
I think it's because normally it comes at the end of a 70 or 80 yard run, and he's probably just wrecked and probably just wants to take his time out on the ground. So no, he was brilliant, and he's playing midfield with Jason Gibbons, who has been in around the Mayo panel for a few years. They're a really strong partnership. So the first game wasn't actually great for half an hour, the first half. the second half was just really entertaining. The quality wasn't amazing, but it was score for score, back and forth, and like there's some of the best players in the county there. So I'd fancy Castleberry, but that'll be a good one on Saturday evening.
And quickly on briefly, because they're already waiting for the winners in the final. They have been just off Castleberry, just not good enough to beat Castleberry. Have they improved to be able to make this county final a bit better if it is Castleberry, or are they still a good bit off them?
I wouldn't have picked them out at the start of the year. That they won the league last year, but that was probably based on their championship form. But it's hard not to kind of count them in the conversation, because they obviously have the three O'Sheas. Conor O'Shea has been playing really well for them this year. They put Aidan into full forward for the first half against Balladreen. Bomb ball on top of him.
Yeah,
he scored a couple of points,
too.
but like everything came off him. Just men kind of picking up breaks and putting over scores and stuff.
Aidan O'Shea was talking about that during the week, just quickly before we finish up, and Mayo getting knocked out of the championship early has improved briefly a lot, because the three lads are clearly very important to them. Centre back Seamus is full forward, centre forward, down the middle. That now he said he feels like he's a proper teammate of the lads rather than just land them back in. Yeah. And he's played about 7 games with them, he said now, and he said it's more of a team than it was. Do you know? And that makes sense. And you see Ballymun Kickham's and they struggle with all those great players coming back.
Because they would have had Robbie Henley as well. Robbie Henley's been scoring loads of long range frees actually from coming up from goals.
So your whole kick-out strategy is based off a goalkeeper that's never there, you know.
Michael Hall, who would have been in around the setup, and Matty Ruan is one to look out for. He would have won an All-Ireland under 21 in 2016, has been on a development panel since, but he plays midfield and has been really good the last few games as well. So I don't know, I think whoever the winner of Castleberry Balan Tobruk will win the final, but they won't be far off.
Right, okay, brilliant stuff, Conor. Right, that's all we've time for, so thanks very much and good luck to our YouTube viewers. See, you get an intro and an outro, and we'll be back on Monday with the usual review show. We'll talk to you then. Good luck.